Welcome to today's episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. My name is Adam Brsan.
And I'm Chris Smith.
If you've yet to do so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And if you love this podcast, don't forget to share it with a friend or colleague. We greatly appreciate your help and support.
So Adam, today we're going to go through interview style, some fun questions. So, ready to go?
Sounds good to me, Chris.
Alrighty, so the first question I have for you this morning is share your biggest win with the group from your sales week this week. Biggest win in a presentation, for example.
I would say my biggest win would have been Tuesday. I wrote a couple apps, but I wrote one app earlier in the day. That's not really the one that I would consider my biggest win, but I was tired. I mean, I don't know what, this whole week I was just tired. I don't know, just doing a whole lot, busy with a lot of things. It was probably, 6:15. I was like struggling to the point where I was just about ready to just call it quits. But I just pushed myself to keep going. I said, I got these leads. I'm already in the area. I'm just going to hit these leads while I'm out here. And had I not done that, I wrote 2 apps in one house that I can't remember the grand total, but I think it was close to 2,000 in premium, maybe even a little bit more than that. So if I would have went home early, I would not have gotten those sales. And honestly, those were 2 sales that made up a good portion of the premium for my week. So yeah, to me, that's a win because I could have went home, but I stuck it out. And because I did, I ended up with a couple pretty good sales.
I think that's the perfect example of pushing past uncomfortable, either uncomfortable like door knocking when you're not comfortable doing it, asking for referrals, setting up a senior center, whatever uncomfortable is for you. Uncomfortable could just be you're tired, like life, summer, family, work, it all kind of can take a toll. And sometimes uncomfortable is just working to the point of what you know you need to do. Second question I have for you, I think is super beneficial, and I hope the folks I wrote it for, or at least one of them, are on the call to hear it. And it isn't a preaching to the choir kind of moment, but I find, and they find, and I've heard people find, it's easy to fall out of routine. Wake up late, skip a call, skip a week, skip the leads, and before you know it, it's almost as if you're completely unemployed. Talk to somebody who might have fallen out of routine, how they can get back to work and get back on track either today or on Monday.
I would say figure out a way to make an easy sale. They're out there. You just got to look for them. It could be somebody that maybe you wrote business on even 30 days ago. I've talked about that where we've gone back. A lot of times when you write the application, they like you enough to move forward with a policy. The trust maybe not is 100% there yet, but once everything comes true that you told them, they received their policy, the payment came out, it came out on the date that you told them it would come out. Now they're like, okay, this guy's the real deal. That's a good chance to go back then. And we always go back and just say, hey, Mr. Jones, I remember I helped you with the insurance last month. I just wanted to let you know you pre-qualified for $35,000. I know you took out the 15. Did you want to take care of the rest today? And it's as simple as that. Maybe he's not going to want to add the whole additional 20,000, but there's a good possibility just from you, like I said, them seeing that what you did actually came true, that trust built up even a little bit more. And you tell them kind of like what you've always said, Chris, it's never going to be cheaper than it is right now. The longer you wait, things change too. Your health can change. I've really been pushing lately talking about how much funerals have gone up since I started. Back in 2003, you could be buried for $6,000 and now it's 2 to 3 times that much. So I really stress that to people when I'm in the home too, that it's great to have enough for right now, but what happens when you die 20 or 30 years from now? And I'll explain that to them, how 20 years ago it was 2 to 3 times less. So yeah, but anyways, yeah, I'd say, do whatever you can to try to find the easiest sale that you have out there, whether that's an existing policy holder, maybe even have a lapse or two that fell off. Lapses, sometimes people don't want to work a lapse. And I kind of look at it as things happen. The client wanted the coverage, they didn't intend for it to lapse. So figure out why it lapsed. And heck, if it was a premium thing, figure out a way to maybe lower their premium a little bit. Maybe it was a draft date issue. Maybe you need to set it up for a different date of the month. But same thing. Go back to your lapses. There's business there that can be written as well.
I think it's important because you have a different upbringing and a different experience in your beginning portion of your career than I did. I came in as a paramedic, used to working 60, 70 hours a week, used to getting up early and staying out late. You were young. You were in your early 20s. You didn't have that same initial transition into the business that I did, but that works for some people in a way different than mine. What I'm trying to say is talk to somebody on the call who's young, who has a lot of freedom, who doesn't have a lot of overhead, who doesn't have a ton of like real things they've got to get done, about the freedom and not letting it control you, but you controlling the freedom and still going out and putting in the work necessary at that younger age group, which I know is a different perspective than I have, but what you came up in the industry with.
Well, yeah, I talked a little bit. I know last Friday, I think me and you and Nick were talking, and I talked a little bit about how you really got to look towards the future. Maybe you're making enough money to get by right now, but do you always want to just be living enough to get by? You want to get to the point where you feel pretty comfortable, where you don't even have to worry about money. And maybe right now, if you're young, maybe you're not worrying about money because right now you don't need a ton. But as time goes on, things happen. Heck, you get married, you have a family, you have kids that have activities, all this other stuff. It sure helps when you have a little bit of a cushion there where you don't have to really, really, push super, super hard to get by. So that's what I would say. Not don't just worry about how much you need to make right now. You got to think a little bit further. Think bigger and focus on. Heck, do you want to work until you're 70 years old because you didn't make enough to retire, or do you want to do more when you're younger? When you have more energy. What else do you have to do at 7 o'clock at night or 8:30 in the morning? And I think a lot of it is just being disciplined and doing what you know that you need to be doing, and because you should be doing it, and treat it like a full-time career. Don't just treat it like a hobby. And you can't just go out there and work when you feel like it. Put the time in. Heck, if you see my numbers, I'm pretty consistent, but I'm also out there, well, 3 days a week, busting my butt. I leave my house at 8:30 in the morning. Lots of times I don't even get home until 9 o'clock at night. So, I'm 42. If I can do that in 3 days, I think any of the young guys, heck, if they put that same sort of energy into their work day and they work 5 or 6 days a week, they'd be able to order more leads. They'd be able to see more people. They'd be writing more business than I am. It's the whole, if there's a will, there's a way. You just gotta be willing to get out there and do it.
I think also sometimes people need, and I mean this in a good way, and we're going to get more practical in just a moment here. We've got 9, 10 minutes to do that. Is sometimes people need a bigger why or a bigger motivation. Like maybe you don't need a bunch of money. Maybe you have a small overhead and you don't have a ton of responsibility. But how badass would it be if you got to go to the Bahamas for a week because you made 15,000 in the month of September? You could do that with this business. How awesome would it be if you wanted to travel Asia or go to Europe or Canada? You could dream pretty big. Maybe there's a car you want, an apartment you'd like. Maybe you'd like to take the next 15 years and work so hard you could sell your business to private equity and then retire at 50. Like there are so many endless possibilities. If you're having trouble getting out the door and controlling the freedom of this business, I think sometimes you just need to find a bigger why or a smaller motivation to get you there. And then once you've developed that once you've developed that habit over the course of 28 days, the rest of it's going to come together. And I have confidence that you are fully capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think that maybe you need to put yourself in a situation where you have to make money. That's like kind of like we said. Maybe some people they're not in that sort of situation and they're comfortable. I talk about how I signed a contract to build a house before I had the money to sign a contract to build a house, And I just knew how much money I needed to make, and I went out there and did it. I put myself in that sort of situation. I had to go out there and do it. And there was no what ifs. There was no there's what happens if this doesn't work out. I couldn't even think about that. I don't even know what would happen. They probably could have sued me or something. I don't know. I put myself in that situation. I knew I needed to make it happen. I went out and did it.
I also think too, you didn't get into this business, you or anybody on this call, just to get by. Like if you just want to get by, get a job, get a 9 to 5 where there's no responsibility outside of those business hours. But you're not in this business as an entrepreneur, saving for your taxes, working for yourself, getting paid directly by century-old insurance companies just to get by. You're better than that. Adam, a quick question here. You're contracted, you're set up, you're selling them, and you're really, really good at getting people excited over incentives, lead credits, bonuses. I remember for years watching you talk about the other company that you worked with, their bonus system. Talk to the group right now, someone that needs to get their contracting done over the weekend, about how exciting the incentives, lead credits, producer bonuses really look.
Yeah, I love companies that maybe put a little bit more towards what they can do to really help agents outside of just paying them a commission and the simplicity of doing business and all of those good things. Different bonuses, lead credits. To me, that's a great thing. It's something that's going to attract agents. It's something that's going to help agents. I mean, heck, if when we're working leads and leads are not cheap, every little bit helps. And so, yeah, their lead credit, I still have to look a little bit further in it. I know they pay $40 a sale, I think, towards your leads. Like you might have to submit the lead, but then they'll credit you $40 per sale for the lead. So, I mean, heck, if you use them as like your primary carrier and you focus on them, you're going to write enough business to probably fulfill 1 week's worth of your leads for the month. And that's a pretty big savings. I mean, figure 20 apps, that's $800 right there. So that's 1 week worth of leads. So just the amount of money that you're going to save right there. And if anything, one thing I always tell people, rather than focus on how much money you're saving, continue to purchase leads yourself, but now you have an extra $800 that you can put towards more leads. That's the way I look at it. That way, I mean, that's just going to give you that many more people to be able to go see. But yeah, the bonus structure, they have a fast start bonus. They have like an annual bonus. I was looking it up again yesterday. I mean, it's motivating. I think like, what was the one I was looking at? I think if I wrote like 200,000 for the year, it was like a $12,000 or $15,000 bonus, something like that. And I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, there's nothing like getting a big old deposit all at once. Yeah. So to me, that's motivating, especially I'm assuming they probably pay that out either at the end of the year or the beginning of the new year. I mean, what a great time to have some good extra money coming in.
Yeah, I think it's January, but imagine getting a $12,000 to $15,000 check in January and paying for your next Tokyo trip because of it. Well, maybe not Tokyo, it could be Florida, but you get the point. You've not only got to look over the bonuses, the incentives, the lead credits. I kind of laughed when I said, Adam, you could be writing business at your commission level and literally working free leads with this carrier. It was just amusing to say it out loud. Talk about the application process. You've written a few with them. One didn't go through. A couple of them did. Is the application hard, complicated, easy? Share some thoughts on that before we get into some objections and door knocking tips.
Yeah, I thought the application process is pretty standard, pretty simple. I of course, did the e-app on both. Like I told you, the first one I wrote, I didn't even realize it was to the point where it would give me a decision. All of a sudden, I just saw on the screen that they were approved. So yeah, I was happy. And it was one too. The lady, she had some health issues, but nothing too serious. It was more stuff like from the past. But that was fine. We were able to get her approved, and she was happy. Actually replaced a policy that she had that she was paying a little bit less, not much less, but I think I close to doubled her coverage. So she was pretty happy. And that was actually one where it was a door knock from a few weeks ago. And she was like just real hesitant to do anything with me at that time, just didn't have a whole lot of time. We talked about it for a few minutes and then she pretty much kicked me out. But she kept my card. She went on my website and she sent in an inquiry. Like I was actually kind of interested. I just was kind of surprised that you just showed up. Can you come back? And it was it was pretty easy sale, honestly. But yeah, I was glad to be able to help her. Their process, very simple, pretty standard. I would compare it almost to like if you've done like American Amicable's e-app. I would say it's pretty comparable. It takes probably just about as long to complete, but really no surprises or anything. If you know how to read and you know how to type and you know how to click into boxes, you should be okay.
Well said. Well said. You've been door knocking 20 plus years in the business. I think that's an important skill. We've done some training on it this week. Appointments are great, but if you can't bang doors, you're going to have a lot of difficulty in this business. And I think some of the difficulty that people have is getting people to the door, getting them to answer, getting over some objections, just simply getting into the routine of a door knocking day. What door knocking tips could you share about just kind of making it a successful door knocking day for folks that might be doing that?
Well, put a route together and try to knock as many doors as you can. It's just a numbers game, especially with the direct mail focus on direct mail because everything is so close together that way. And then from there, yesterday, I plugged in a route of about 40 leads that were all each lead probably within 5 minutes of each other or less. So, I was able to knock out quite a few leads in just a small amount of time. So that's to me, that's probably my best pointer on door knocking is just focus on direct mail. The more leads you have in that one area, the more people you're going to be able to catch up with. But try to catch up with as many people as you can throughout the day. Don't get distracted. These days, it can be very distracting with our phones and checking emails and everything else. Try to keep that to a minimum. When you park your car, do what you can to get out of your car as fast as you can before you can get distracted by other things. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just try to knock as many people as you can throughout the day. And it's just a numbers game. The more doors you knock, the more chances you have of getting in some houses and making some sales. And don't give up on your leads. There was leads that I've had that I think the one I wrote that where the lady first didn't want to talk to me and then she ended up inquiring on the website. That lead was probably from like February or March. So don't give up on your leads. Don't look at like the date on the lead. If it shows the lead or shows the date on the lead, it really doesn't matter.
That's so toxic. Yeah. Yeah. I think also sometimes people have the difficulty of distractions. You were saying, I literally just got distracted, but I think it's interesting. People may not know this, but I almost see you and hear you probably 3 hours out of a Monday on camera or on the call. A lot of the time on Friday, very early in the mornings, very late in the evenings. But throughout the course of your sales days on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, literally nothing, like nothing. Because I know that you're focusing, you're knocking, you're running appointments, you're getting in front of people, you're making calls. That's the kind of focus necessary to be successful in the field and avoiding distractions. In our final 3 minutes, I'm going to get into an objection for the benefit of the group. Do you want to role play the bank objection or the think about it objection in our final 3 minutes together?
Well, we could do the bank objection.
Alrighty. We don't get this one as often anymore. No. You don't get it as often. The better you get at the job, the business, the career. But you're in the presentation, you're at the end of the presentation, or maybe even in the beginning. Let's go with the beginning. And the person says to you, I know what this is about. I know that I need it. But if this has to come out of my bank account, Adam, I just don't want it. So I don't want you to waste your time.
If they say that when I first walk in?
Yeah, even early on. I've had that happen early sometimes where they're like, I know this is about insurance. I know I want it, but I'm not letting you take nothing out my bank account. How do you deal with that early on in the presentation?
I would say, well, you know what? We'll get to that part. There's several different ways we can go about setting it up. So, I'll go through this with you, kind of tell you a little bit about us and what we do, and I'll put together a few different ideas, and then we'll go from there.
I think early on, it might be a trust issue, and you get a chance to build the trust and build the value and get it taken care of and not fall into the trap of the objection. Towards the end of the presentation, you show them 3 options. They pick an option, but they say to you they don't feel comfortable giving out their bank information. How do you make sure that doesn't keep you from getting the business written?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I don't run into it nearly as much as I did in the past. I feel like people's bills these days, more and more, that's just kind of how everything is set up. Ran into it a lot more when I was trying to sell over the phone there, like over a year ago and during COVID and that. But face to face doesn't happen too often. But I try to explain to the client that this is like probably their most important bill, a bill that they want to make sure is always going to be paid. If they got sick or something, if they ended up in the hospital, if they're just getting a bill sent to them every month, they might not be around to pay it. Somebody else might not even know to pay it. You might not even be in good enough shape to tell somebody to pay it for you. You could end up losing your policy after paying into it for many years even. And then you might not even be in good enough health to be able to get it again. So you want to make sure that this is always paid. And I just kind of go over how it's very accurate. If I'm very confident they're always going to take it on the day that they say they're going to, we never have any issues. If for some reason they took it on a day that they weren't supposed to take it out and you got hit with an overdraft or something, I'll take care of it for you. But that usually never happens.
It's just being honest, it's being real, and building the value to the point where making the decision is easy at that point and objections are few and far between. Let's go out there today and have a profitable, a productive, and a positive conclusion to the week. Take care.
And this concludes another episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend or colleague. And if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please leave those too. Any input is greatly appreciated. Thank you.